Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Night Owls. Thank you so much for joining me again. I'm Tom, and I'm joined by Dave.
Hey, hello.
And we have some very cool stories to bring you this week. We're going to talk about some ideas that I have for videos in like a new era for my channel. We're going to talk about something that it has like questionable ethics that people do on YouTube that has happened to us, both of us, at different times. So we'll see what you make of that. We're going to talk about a new purchase that Dave has made for his channel, which I think has made, I'm quite jealous of it. It looks really nice. I might have to buy one for myself. We'll be getting into that. But we're starting with a cool story that I'm sure has been a long time coming on this podcast. Take it away. It finally happened.
Yeah, so Thornton, you have been recognised, 100 times by now, something like
Look,
that?
it's this famous face. Look, it's just perfect. How could you not recognise this? By the way, we're on video. If you're watching on Spotify, we do have a YouTube channel now, so check that out.
And there should
But
be video on
go
Spotify
ahead.
as well.
Yeah.
Anyway, it has happened a few times with people I know. So I've been somewhere and I've mentioned it and they're like, yeah, I watch your videos, whatever. But this time was a bit different. It's not quite the kind of thing you've experienced. But I went, excuse me, I went to this concert a couple of nights ago, and it was at my old uni. But of course, it's so long since I've been there that I don't know anyone there at the moment.
Right.
So I went to this concert, and I sit next to this guy, and he's studying music as well, so we're just sort of chatting a little bit. And then he's like, "Oh, what do you do since you've graduated?" And I say, "Oh, I'm kind of doing YouTube now." And we're sort of chatting a little bit, and then a bit later, he's like, "I have to be honest, I've seen some of your videos." And then we sort of look up, the ones he's seen, and he's subscribed. So
Nice.
he didn't quite, it wasn't like, "Oh my God, you're..."
Right. It was with a little nudge, a reminder.
Yeah.
But it totally counts, and he showed you on his phone that he's subscribed. So I would say, there you go. You're in the club now. The thing that I've been, ruining my everyday life when I just try and go out on the street and getting mobbed. You're one of us now. So yeah, welcome. How's it feel?
I mean, yeah, it was kind of nice. Nice to know that people do actually watch. I did. I've always felt a bit awkward when I see people and they sort of mention they watch the videos, but I'm getting used to it.
Yeah, I had someone come up to me in the street today, and I was like, "Oh, here we go again." They love the channel, but I had dropped a glove, and they were giving it back to me. And in my head, when I looked in their eyes, I was like, "Here we go, here it is." And then I looked down, and she was holding a glove, and I was like, "Oh, thanks." I had a close shave as well when I was in Morocco last year. I took a sleeper train one night, and in the room there was like 4 beds, so it's like 2 bunk beds. So there's like 4 people in total, and I was on the bottom left, and on the bottom right was this really drunk Moroccan guy who was quite a good laugh, and on the top there was a married couple, and they were one Irish and one New Zealand. And so we were talking, but we were talking like I was laying on the bottom bunk and they were on their top bunks, and it was like really hard. There wasn't a lot of space where you could like hang out. So we weren't looking at each other, we were just talking. But because obviously I spoke English, they spoke English, and this drunk Moroccan guy spoke like a little bit of English. But I was like, "Oh, that's interesting, like an Irish New Zealand couple, like how did you meet? Like what's the whole thing?" And it turns out that they really like traveling, and they were like, we were just chatting, and the Irish guy, he was like, "Tom, have you been on any other sleeper trains?" And I was like, "Yeah, I mean, I've been all across the US." And then he was like, "Oh, we were watching this great video on YouTube last night about someone who did a train across the US." And I like poked my head out from under the other 2 beds, like into the middle of the room, and I was like, "Hey, was it?
No
yeah,
way.
no, now you get it." Like, how crazy is that? Like, you were, watching this last night before going on this train, and if you'd seen my video,
Yeah.
and then you get on the next train that you get on in your life, and like I'm in the same room as you. Like, how crazy is that? And I went out and they were like, oh no, we don't recognize you. It
Oh.
wasn't you. It wasn't your video.
Oh, that's such a shame.
Yeah, so it was so close. Like, imagine how cool that would have been if they had seen my video and then the next day they get on a train and I'm literally in there with them. But it wasn't to be.
And
it
for
wasn't
them
my
as
video.
well, that would have been like they would have told that story for the rest of their life if that was
definitely. Yeah, but it wasn't.
you. Not to worry.
And I started off talking about an expensive purchase that you've made, and I want to take quite a roundabout route to get there because I wanted to talk about something that like affects me. Bring it back to me, just talking
Okay.
about myself for a while. And so, as you know, I really enjoy making stuff for Patreon, and we've talked on here before about the different sort of forms that can take when you do like a second channel or a second paid project for members only and all of these things. And I really like to do something that I do on there, which is just a video where I'm talking for a long time, just me. So this is great, like where I have you, and if I run out of like things to say, I'm like, Dave is definitely going to know the right thing to say and like fill this in. But when you're sat talking by yourself, it's like quite broadcastery, and I feel like that's a weird skill to try and train. And it's something I've kind of been struggling with over Christmas, where I didn't shoot anything for like 2 weeks. I came back this year rusty as hell, and I've been struggling to make them. I made, I think, like 20 full starts. So I try and do the Patreon videos. I talk for half an hour in one go and I don't cut. And I made about 20 full starts and I just gave up. And in some of them I got to like minute 7 and then I blew it.
Hang on,
Loads of them I don't do 10 seconds.
Are you going from a script here?
No, literally, that's the thing. So
how can you have
unscripted,
a
I
full
just talk
start?
about a topic. Like, because I'll just turn the camera on and I'll be like, hi, welcome back, thank you. And then I just like won't do it. I'll just lose my place completely.
I can understand there, but surely you can just do a jump cut if you're into it.
No, because the thing is, like, I'll get to the 4th minute and then I'll be like, all of this was awful. And I'll just turn the camera off.
The trouble is
I
then
think it's...
is
yeah.
that the first take is normally the best because it's like freshest, and then the subsequent takes you're kind of acting it out, and you lose that authentic
Yes.
storytelling.
Yeah, exactly. So what I do on there is kind of like a podcast because it's unscripted, but it's only me. I don't have you to lean on. And I think it's something, it's really made me think about things differently, like trying to do this, because I probably don't learn new skills that often. And this is definitely a new skill for me, like talking a lot for an extended period of time. And that was something I felt that I really got down last year. Like, I could look at my early ones from the calendar year and be like, oh, I was really struggling to talk for that long, or they were quite boring. And then by like autumn, I thought, oh, I can do this. Like, it doesn't scare me to sit there and talk for half an hour on my own on video anymore. I'm becoming a better broadcaster, which is a weird skill. Like, I don't think anybody can really teach you that. Like, I mean, we went to, all these different layers of like education and everything. And I think until you actually sit down and try to do that skill of like broadcasting, it's quite, nothing can prepare you for it. And then having a few weeks off doing it over Christmas, I feel like I can't, I can't do it anymore. And that's been kind of worrying. I'm spending like this part of the new year getting back to where I was last year. Do you know what I mean? It's like, it's one of those skills. And this is one of the reasons why I even had like this podcast on Patreon, where I just talk by myself, because I wanted to get better at it. And I feel like I climbed the mountain and then I've just been like slipping back down. And I found that quite frustrating.
I absolutely think so much of any type of creating is just about having that momentum. It's so
definitely
hard if you take an extended break to get back into it.
Yeah.
And especially when it comes to ideas as well. I think when you're just constantly doing it, ideas seem to come. But if you stop for a while, you then start to question if the idea is any good and stuff like that.
You just have to push through, I think.
So
it's like exercise.
It's
Habit.
or learning a language. Everything is just doing a bit each day.
Yeah, tell me about it. Oh, I really want to learn a third language, but I'm just so lazy. so painfully lazy.
So,
I've been listening to, I mentioned to you before, I've been listening to some Japanese music, and I'm like, oh, it would be so good
really?
to be able to understand this. I would love that. Or Portuguese, actually. I've been listening to some Brazilian music, and I've just been like, oh, this is such a nice language. Because that's one of the things, like with German, there's not a huge amount of artists that I like. So if I'm trying to use my music listening hours as learning hours, it's not that great. But then Brazilian music is just so good. And like, obviously I have loads of recommendations from a past life. And like, all of that is still like in my Spotify Wrapped and everything. These like good Brazilian songs that I used to like. But I can't understand like a word that they're saying. And it does influence me. I'm just like, damn, I need to learn this language so that I can understand.
Do you remember any of the songs or artists, Brazilian ones?
Yeah, my favorite Brazilian song is País Tropical by Jorge Benjor. He's the guy actually who wrote, I don't know how you would word this, but Do You Think I'm Sexy by Rod Stewart?
Yes, the original.
Yeah. Rod Stewart was
melody.
like, oh, I was at Carnival in Sao Paulo and this melody just came to me. It's like, no, this is a massive Brazilian song that they were playing at Carnival.
Yeah.
The melody didn't just come to you in a dream while you happen to be in Brazil. And then you think you can sell it to an English speaking market and like get away with it.
I know that fact because David Bennett did it in a video of songs that were stolen. And I edited that video.
Oh,
and,
right.
had to sort of go and listen to it. And yeah, it's exactly the same.
Yeah. Taj Mahal. Yeah, he's great. He has quite a few good songs. Gal Costa is a great artist. I was in Brazil when she died, and so a lot of her music was like being played, and I associate it like quite strongly with that time. There's a singer called Rita Lee as well who did a cover of a Beatles song. Is Here, There and Everywhere a Beatles song?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, then that song. But it's called something else in Portuguese, and it's really good. Yeah, I used to listen to that quite a lot, actually. I really loved it. And then obviously there's like linguistic crossovers. So the guy who did The Girl from Ipanema with Frank Sinatra is like a half Portuguese, half English song. I think that works really well.
Yeah, there's really great music.
A lot of great musicians.
I love so much of that.
Whereas like you're here in Germany and it's just like, you know, I don't really want to listen to Rammstein for obvious reasons. You having just made a music controversy iceberg video, like Rammstein could have been a good
I don't know much about Rammstein, so I don't know what that controversy is.
And I like some German artists, but I just tend to go around in circles with a few. There's not like a great selection. But yeah, that was just one thing I need to, I want to maybe learn Japanese over like the next, 20 years. Because life is long. You have a lot of time to achieve the things that you want to achieve in life.
You do if you're never uploading, so...
Yeah, I know. There's plenty of free time if you never make videos. But that was an incredibly roundabout way of me bringing up a investment that you made in your gear. Because I am struggling with talking for a long time to the camera non-stop. Mostly because I can't think of words to say. But if you write everything down, then you can buy...
a teleprompter.
So I don't know if anybody's noticed the strong eye contact Dave is making with the camera in his last videos.
Yeah.
But he's gone Joe Biden's final year in the Oval Office. No live press conferences anymore. Just teleprompter in the studio.
It's been quite interesting because firstly, I've always scripted my videos, so it's not really a change to how I make the videos. And not that I dislike jump cuts when other people do them, but for some reason I try and avoid it. I try and cover it with B-roll.
Right.
So that means that when I talk to the camera, or I have done in the past, I'll have to memorize that sort of sentence or paragraph.
Yeah.
And then say it to the camera.
My whole body is shuddering, remembering all the times I've done that.
And the problem then is that you spend so much effort and like brain power just trying to memorize
it. It really is. I don't think people get that.
Yeah, that you can't really get that. Act it out because you're just constantly thinking, what is that word? So I got this teleprompter, which has made a few different improvements which have been really good. So the first is I just enjoy filming a lot more because I don't have to worry about memorizing. I just read through the script, and you get to sort of act it out a little bit more, because if you get lost, you just have a look and it's fine. And it doesn't seem that noticeable. In the last video, I made a bit of a mistake in that you can adjust the size of the text and everything, and I made it a bit too big without realizing. But you can definitely adjust it so it's completely hidden. And the other thing, it allows me to, I think, show a bit more of myself, whereas in the past, because I can't talk for that long, I've had to minimize how much I can show. And just make longer videos because, where it's been so intense having to do the scripting and memorizing thing, you don't want to do more than like 10 minutes, whereas now I can do longer.
That's really true. So you think it could allow you to produce longer videos quicker, essentially, with less stress?
Yeah, in theory, like I very rarely have to do multiple takes on any line.
That's really nice.
It's only because I cough, which at the moment I'm doing quite a bit. Or if there's some other sound, like we had a dog barking, so I had to stop.
Or that alarm clock that goes off every hour. Yeah, no, it's weird. A couple of years ago, I heard about YouTubers using teleprompters for the first time. And I was like, what? Are we BBC News? Like, what is that? But then over time, I've just done so many videos with narration that I'm like, I get quite stressed doing it. It's definitely my least favorite part of the whole thing. And if I've written a long video, particularly if it's one where, obviously I'm on camera reading it because I don't have clips for everything. And it's like, okay, well, I have to be looking in the camera. And exactly like you said, you're like, what was that? Like, no. Okay, I'm going to do that to camera now enthusiastically. And then you never get it. You're like, wait, what was it? And your life is constantly moving your eye contact. And you have to leave enough of your eye contact, like after the line for the camera to like leave room for the scissors. Because when I used to do it, my eyes would go down to my laptop like the second I'd said the last word. But that comes out in the video so clearly. So you have to like hold eye contact and then look at the laptop. And I don't know what it is about it that stresses me out. I think there's something about it that I'm not very able to do. I love the writing and I love coming up with jokes and stuff. But the reading it out, I have so many memories of like being sat here trying to do it or sat on my sofa trying to do it. And I'm just like, I scroll down the page on Notion and I'm like, oh, I'm halfway. Oh God, I'm halfway. I'm going to do this. Even though I've only been working on it for like 20 minutes. So say it ends up being 40 minutes to record like 10 minutes of narration. That's fine. Like it doesn't matter. It's like not even an hour. But halfway through, I'm like, okay, I'm halfway. I'm going to make it. I'm going to make it. Like I literally want it to be over as if I'm like at the dentist or something. Do you know what I mean? And it's really hard. And I actually saw, there's a channel I really like by an author who's called Christiane Jones. She's Australian. And I joined her Patreon where she sort of talks a bit more like unscripted and deeper. And she's like, it was so validating to me because she's such a professional. She has like all of these subscribers and views and blah, blah, blah. And she was like, it's the day where I shoot a main channel video. She was like, that is the only thing I can do on that day because I get so stressed because I'm acting, making eye contact with the camera. And afterwards I need to like go and shut off and be like antisocial for a bit. And I was like, oh my God, that is so validating to hear from like a professional who's been doing it so much longer than me, that the acting part is like just the most energy sapping because it takes like you balancing your personality sort of on a pin and you can't do that for too long or I think it becomes quite stressful. But that really made me feel like I wasn't alone.
And the other thing with filming is my least favorite part. And I think the reason is that so many things can go wrong. Yeah,
that you can't ever take back.
Yeah, so it could be anything from the microphone level was too high and it's distorting. The autofocus on the camera is off, so it's out of focus.
Yeah, I didn't hit record.
Yeah. I always get it where my hair doesn't look so good.
Oh, I know. I have to have had a shower that day. It's like, it's the worst.
Yeah, in my Mozart video, which thankfully not many people watched, I left my sunglasses case on excuse me, on top of the speaker on the desk. And it's only a tiny thing, but it's just like, I wish I could take that out, but you just can't. Unless you really
can Adobe Firefly every frame.
I guess so.
Adobe Firefly, I guess, will come out for video one day and then you can do that.
And like something always, not always, but yes, so many things can go wrong. And
yeah, it's the part where I feel least in control.
Yeah. But
because it's everything. It's like my body, my clothes, my face, my hair, getting reflection out of my glasses, the whole thing. And like you said, audio levels. Oh my God, the whole thing is just such a nightmare. You know what? Actually, I don't want to make YouTube videos anymore. It's too hard.
no, get the prompter. It's really good.
Yeah, I think after seeing you use it, I'm like, wow. It's a direct purchase that I think would take away some of the pain, and specifically seeing you there saying you're more chill doing longer videos.
Honestly,
Like, that is a bit of a life hack, actually.
I'm verging on enjoying it.
No, whoa, steady on. Are you a salesman for this company? Do you have a referral code or something?
I'll have to show you. The great thing about it is it has this voice sync feature.
Right.
So as you're talking through the script, it automatically scrolls, and it works like magic. It's just amazing. And
Nice.
yeah.
Nice. I might have to do that for when I shoot a video, and I wanted to also talk about some ideas that I have for videos.
Yeah.
And dear listeners, this has come because obviously I don't upload, and Dave said that I need to contribute more and pull my weight with talking on the podcast.
I don't know if I put it in those terms. But...
So, master plan, right?
Okay.
Master plan. And, every year you have a different master plan and none of them ever work. But this is this one. What did I like most about last year? And I've said this loads of times. When I did the Roman Empire history videos, I enjoyed that the most. So why not, for once in my life, take that and actually only do that? Not do like 8 different genres in a row that I'm like sort of enjoying, when there's something that I think actually works and I have a good time doing. Just do that forever. Do one genre forever, like you've been telling me to do for years.
Just Roman Empire or just history?
There are people who do. There's loads of people who do just
I'm
Roman
sure,
Empire, and
yeah.
I watch so many of them. I said to, oh God, it's so embarrassing. You know when you like, you overthink like, oh, I was so drunk last night, I shouldn't have said that. Well, I've had this on Dry January. Like, it still happens. Okay. It's not the drink. I just say stupid stuff
what
that
have
I
you
shouldn't
said?
say. Because I said I didn't drink on New Year. I was at a party and there was someone there who I was talking to. She was like, "Oh yeah, I also come from an island, right?" And I was like, "Oh my God, crazy! Like we both come from islands." And it turned out she didn't really. There's like a road, but at high tide you can't use it because it's covered by water. And I was like, "That's not an island, I'm afraid.
Okay,
that doesn't count." But anyway. She was telling me the story about this island and the tides, and I was looking at her and I was like, you look so much like this girl I watch on YouTube who talks about the Roman Empire.
Did you say it to her?
Yeah, I did.
Oh.
Perhaps the least interesting thing anyone has ever said to a girl to a girl at a party in human history, probably.
I mean, what is she supposed to say back to that?
I know, it's pointless, right? There's nothing you can say. It's just like, all right. Cheers then.
Yeah, especially if is it someone you might say is attractive on YouTube?
Yeah,
Okay.
definitely I would say,
Because
actually, yeah.
you wouldn't want to be like, by the way, this is an insult, but you
Oh right, yeah,
you
yeah.
look like this person.
You actually, yeah, you really remind me of Brian Blessed when he did this one film wrong. No, it is a compliment if you saw this person, but it was one of those things. Like the next day, like replaying the game in my head, I was like, dude.
Yeah.
Get a life, man.
I have a little story that ties into we were going to talk about like YouTube of the week, so remind me to come back to that.
Oh yeah, nice. I already said my one when I talked about
Oh,
that Australia guy. Yeah, but we'll do that at the end.
Okay.
So you are going into this program where they teach you how to write YouTube titles. Why don't I give you 3 ideas that I have for historical videos in Germany, and you tell me which. You put them in order from best to worst. You know, like the last round on Pointless.
Okay, yeah.
So that is a cultural reference that nobody who listens to this will get, because we hardly have any UK listeners. So I'll give you 3 ideas for historical videos to shoot in Germany. And you tell me which you think is most likely to be a hit, middle, and least likely to be a hit.
Okay.
So 1... How did Cologne Cathedral survive World War II? Yeah.
Yep.
because I think it's so fascinating. There's loads of pictures of Cologne being flattened. Obviously,
Just
loads of
give me
cities.
the titles. I want to.
Oh, just the titles.
Yeah.
Oh no, but I like to have a little bit of yap. Okay.
Okay. After I'll give you time.
After. All right. How did Cologne Cathedral survive World War II?
Yeah.
Oh, I haven't written the titles for all of them. The tragic true story behind Snow White.
Is this the same video?
No, this is the second video. What do you mean it's just the same video? Are you okay? What,
I thought these were different titles for the same video.
no, they're different ideas.
Oh,
I'll give you
okay.
3 titles.
Sorry.
Otherwise, you see what I have to work with here, people. God damn.
Okay.
No, okay. Sorry, Dave. They're 3 different ideas. Shall I start again?
Sure.
How did Cologne Cathedral survive World War II?
Okay. So yeah, you can yap about it if you want, because.
Oh, right. No, it's okay. I'll do them at the end. I thought you meant like you were just going to judge it like a viewer in the sidebar and not know any more context.
Okay.
You can tell how well we plan these things, everybody. Second one, the tragic true story behind Snow White. And the third one, I haven't actually written, but it would be like, why is this priceless Egyptian artifact in Berlin?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, before Yap, what's the 1, 2, and 3 of that?
Okay. Number 3 is the Snow White one.
Okay.
I think it's partly because I'm not so interested in that as a topic. And secondly, I think Tragic True Story is a bit too 2015 YouTube.
Oh, interesting.
It's a bit like...
Should I do the rise and rise of Snow White? I think that's totally fair assessment. What is, if you were going to workshop that?
What would the video be about?
Child labour. That's definitely an out of context Night House clip for the future. What would the video be about? Child labour. So Snow White and the 7 Dwarves. She was a real princess in Bavaria, or maybe in Baden-Württemberg, I'm not sure, but in the south of Germany. And she ruled over this area where there was a lot of mining going on. And to save expense when they were mining, they would keep the mine shafts as low as possible. So all you could send down there were kids. And there was obviously, this was like 1,000 years ago, there was no laws or like child labour regulations. And so because these kids, they weren't getting sunlight and they were breathing in sulfur all the time, they didn't grow properly. They weren't healthy. So they literally were like smaller than if they'd grown healthily, right? And then this became Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs, especially when Disney took it over and they were like, oh, it's a cool fairy tale, but we have to get rid of the grim child labour part. Oh, we'll call them dwarves and just make them like magical creatures.
Okay, that makes sense. And you had the tragic true story of Snow White?
Behind Snow White. But it's in 3rd place.
Okay.
So, what's in 2nd place?
I actually think it's quite an interesting video.
If I could get a title. Okay, put a pin in that for later then. You can text me a few title ideas.
Number 2, I think it's very close. I think it's probably Cologne Cathedral number 2.
Ooh, I like it. Wow. I like it.
Is there any reason why it didn't get bombed, or is it just luck?
It is just luck.
Okay,
but I can get 8 minutes out of explaining that. Because the thing is, it's such an amazing building, and anyone who's ever been to Cologne would never like forget it. It's like one of the main tourist attractions in Germany. And I think there is quite an interesting thing to be said a few minutes about just building it, because it took like 600 years to build. It's this insane thing. And I was speaking to one of my German friends about it the other day. I mentioned this video idea, and he's an architect, and he just gave me like the perfect yap. We were talking, and I was like, I'm gonna have to stop and put this in my notes app because I like want to remember this. But he said it was like the reason that it was so grand and it took so long to finish is that basically it was too ambitious. and they couldn't do it. But then when they were trying to like come up with like German nationalism in the 19th century, they needed like a symbol to rally around, and they finished it. They were like, oh, all of these ambitious plans, like we just have to do them because we need to make like a glorious nation, essentially. So it was like a massive propaganda project in the end. And they were like, well, what are like Germany's roots going back to like Germany of like the Goths and everything? Oh, it's Gothic architecture. So like we'll just do the biggest Gothic thing and it'll be a symbol to the world of like Germany's greatness. So it's like a propaganda thing, a religious thing. And how didn't it get bombed? Because Cologne got flattened like so many German cities, and it's like this insane building. Like how did it survive? And there was speculation that RAF pilots were told to avoid it, and this did actually happen. Like they didn't nuke Kyoto because Truman had gone there on holiday and said it was nice, so they had to avoid it and stuff like that for like cultural significance. So they did take that into account. We're so getting demonetized with all of these topics I'm bringing up. The nuclear bomb, child labour.
We're not monetized anyway, so it doesn't matter.
And so things like that did happen. And also, potentially they were told to spare it because the spires are so tall. It's by far the biggest building there. So it's like good for wayfinding. You can tell where you are. If you can see the spires of that cathedral, then you can locate where your plane is. So leave them standing because they're quite useful. But the third aspect, which is most interesting, is God. Divine intervention.
Okay,
divine
Trump.
intervention. Was it divine intervention? Because like all of these churches, they say they have like remnants of the cross, or like, oh, we have one of the nails that went in Jesus's foot, or like all of this stuff. We have the bones of like the real Saint Paul, So people say that there's like these like artifacts there that like kept it safe. I can't remember what the Cologne one is. I think it's the skull of one of the three wise men. It's supposed to be in Cologne Cathedral. There's some kind of horse trading going on, but they say God saved it, which I think is quite a good one. So there's these three ideas behind it.
So am I right in saying that when they started building it, they didn't have the technology to sort of finish it, and it had to, over the 600 years, they developed it enough that they could finish it?
Potentially. I think it was a bit more, they didn't have the money, even if the technology existed.
So could you say something like the cathedral that was impossible to build when they started it, or something like that?
Yes. I'd probably have to go closer to the research to find out exactly a way of wording it that's true. Sadly, that's probably the case with Sagrada Familia in Barcelona.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's definitely something in that. And it's kind of famous as a TikTok meme. I don't know if you've seen it, but American tourists going to Cologne, they're like, this was built by aliens. Like, there's no way they did this like without power tools and everything. Like, we wouldn't be able to do it today because it's just like so crazy.
I was watching some things on the pyramids last night, and it's a similar kind of thing where people just can't admit that humans built it because it would have been too hard.
Yeah,
anyway.
What was that on? I was watching something recently with someone I like, and they were talking about how the pyramids were built by aliens. I got cornered by someone on a night out fairly recently trying to tell me that the pyramids were built by aliens. I was like, all right, mate, fair enough. I'm sure people worked together and they carried many stones and they put them on rollers and stuff, and they just built them.
It's
impressive.
I don't want to go off a tangent because we'll come back to it, but it's just so like depreciating to yourself to think that humans can't do these things, because then when you're faced with an opportunity to do something great, you don't want to have that same mindset of, oh, this is impossible. I think it's really inspiring to think that back then when I think they didn't have wheels back then. No. I heard Veritasium say that. It's true.
I'm sure it's true. It's just like one of those ridiculous things. Like even trying to think of a time before wheels, because I know someone did have to invent the wheel. That's why we say like don't reinvent the wheel. Yeah. But just the idea like they didn't even have wheels, man. But didn't they like put the blocks on logs and like push them so it was like kind of a roller system? Or does that count as a wheel?
I don't know. You think they would have invented the wheel?
Like, imagine inventing the pyramids before you invent the wheel that can help you build the pyramids.
Well, like they get to the end and the guy's like, I've found this wheel.
You're gonna hate me for this. Yeah. We could have shaved off like at least Q3 off that project timescale if we just had the wheel.
Does the okay, whatever.
No, go on. I want to hear this.
I was gonna say. No, did the pyramids have?
Are you gonna say toilets?
I was going to say doors. Did the pyramids
I guess so.
Did they have
but
doors?
They were like sealed off. We had to like break them down and like break in and stuff, didn't we? They do have doors, but it's like you were never meant to use them.
Right, so it's just like...
Pyramids have doors. I think there's like sealed walkways and
okay,
stuff.
So it's not like a hinge.
Yeah. No, they don't have a Ring doorbell that you can like go up and press, because I don't think you were ever meant to go in. Like there's no like hallway or like entry like inside. It's all like crouching and tunnels and stuff.
Okay.
So that the people who put them in there could get out, but then they like sealed it up.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a gated community if you pay the membership fee.
Okay.
Which actually brings us on perfectly to my third video title, to be honest. Why is this priceless Egyptian artifact in Berlin? So that was your top one. Is this because of like pyramids and aliens and stuff?
Might
you think there's like a History Channel
I'm in the mood
crew that will click
for
it?
Egyptian stuff. What was the title again?
Why is this priceless Egyptian artifact in Berlin?
Okay, I think that's quite interesting.
A
couple of thoughts. Surely every Egyptian artifact is priceless.
We're going deep, people. Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to dispute that at all, but the bust of Nefertiti is like particularly sought after. I think it's one that they, like in particular, they want back. It's not like in a, cabinet with like 50 other things. It's like in a hall all by itself in this one museum.
Okay.
As the centerpiece. It's definitely priceless, but could you argue everything from ancient Egypt is priceless? I suppose you could.
I don't know. There's probably some very small like coin or something that
you could say this is like 20 quid on eBay.
Yeah, well, to that effect. I don't know. It might take some workshopping on the title.
I think it's just such an interesting topic, and to be honest, I wanted to go and see it, and I was like, I think this would actually be quite a good idea for a video. I think it has quite like a weird history. Like sometimes you look at these artifacts on Wikipedia, if you're sad like me, and they were like raided out of Egypt, then they were like some of them were put in like a freezer in New York, and then like the person who owned it like died, and then it was left there, and then some of them were found and they were like smuggled to like India onto like the arms trade, and it was like all of this weird stuff going on, and then eventually some of them make it through the black market to real like historians and universities and stuff who put them in museums, Indiana Jones style, but without the Nazis in this case, or snakes. And I think there's obviously such like a wide conversation to be had. Like in a way, it's kind of comment bait, an English person speaking about an artifact being in Berlin when everybody is just going to be like, the British Museum. But I mean for the video to like be part of that whole debate, including everything that's in the British Museum. Like, what right do we have to like to keep it and to exhibit these things away from where they're meant to be? Like, I went to the British Museum recently and they have that Easter Island head, and they show pictures of people from that island coming to London to like worship it in the museum and then go back, and it's like, why isn't it back there? Like, it makes no sense. So and they brought like dirt from Easter Island to put around the base of it so that it would have like some of its spiritual home with it in this like sealed room in London. And I found that really sad. I think it's a really interesting conversation to be had. And when you're in the British Museum as well, like the Elgin marbles and stuff, they're like, oh, we acquired these through legal trade deals with the Ottomans. And you're like, dude, that hasn't existed for like so long. Like, and legal trade deals, you were using all kinds of leverage because it was the British Empire at the time as well, which was like really powerful. Like nothing that ethical was going on back then. But the other side to it is, so like I was speaking with one of my Syrian friends and I was asking about Roman Empire stuff there, and they were like, yeah, it's just getting bombed, like it's disappearing every year. More and more of it is going, and some of it will just like cease to exist. And you do think like, well, if it was in London, it would be better off. Like this stuff would be being preserved for more generations. So there's arguments on both sides, which I think is the best way to make an interesting video.
Do you think it's true with artwork as well? That basically no museum has just their nationality's artists in there. So you get like Van Goghs all around the world. And,
yeah. That's a good point. I think the thing with that is isn't it a bit more of like a modern thing to have like paintings?
Yeah, and I guess you would say that the pyramids belong to the state of Egypt, whereas Van Gogh's paintings don't belong to the well, he painted them in France, but most of them they belong to that person, and then they're distributed through his estate.
It's a personal business, and you have the right to trade them away in your lifetime and stuff.
Yeah.
Whereas these were like raided, so it would be like the English army going to an attic in the Netherlands and like reprimanding them. I don't know how they filled the National Portrait Gallery in London. Did they like buy the stuff? Do you have to pay? I assume it wasn't the military. I think that's the main difference. Like you say, it's a commercial, private enterprise being a fine artist, and they can end up down the chain wherever. Whereas like if you send an army to like nick the Rosetta Stone, then that's a different thing because they have guns.
Yeah. Anyway, we might have to wrap up soon because I think my camera's going to overheat.
That's cool. So our other topic that I teased at the start, we'll do in the next episode. And let me know in the comments your ranking of those 3 video ideas and roughly how many years you think it will take me to release 3 videos. We'll take a sweepstake.
I think you can do it in the next month. A video a week.
Oof. Wow, even the third one, the bottom one.
To Berlin.
I thought that was getting torn up to shreds.
Oh. No, I think the idea was actually more interesting than the title suggested.
Yeah, sometimes that's the way, isn't it? I guess I'll have to work on that a bit harder. Anyway, thank you so much everybody for watching and listening, and get in touch with your comments and questions and praise and criticisms. We're so glad to have you here, and we will see you next time.
Bye.